The words came from my 8-year-old niece during dessert. We were sitting around my parents' dining table. 17 people crammed into a space meant for 12. The turkey had been carved, the sides devoured, and my mother was bringing out 3 different pies when Maya said it. "Aunt Jennifer, Mom says you're just the leftovers of the family." The table went quiet for exactly 2 seconds. Then my sister Christine laughed. A few cousins joined in. My Uncle Tom chuckled into his coffee. My father looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My mother busied herself cutting pie. Maya looked confused by the reaction, clearly not understanding what she'd repeated or why the adults found it funny. She was 8. She just said what she'd heard her mother say at home, probably multiple times, based on how easily the phrase rolled off her tongue. My partner, Sarah, reached for my hand under the table. I squeezed back and stood up calmly. "We're going to head out," I said, my voice steady. "Oh, come on," Christine said, still smiling. "It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. We have an early morning tomorrow." I walked to the coat closet and pulled out our jackets. "Jennifer, stay for pie," my mother said weakly. "Thank you for dinner. It was lovely." I kissed her cheek and headed for the door. Sarah followed without a word. We drove home in silence for the first 10 minutes. Then Sarah spoke. "I'm so sorry you had to hear that." It's not the first time Christine said something like that. Just the first time she used her daughter to say it. The way everyone laughed made it worse. They always do. It's easier to go along with Christine than to challenge her. Sarah reached over and squeezed my hand again. We'd been together for 3 years. This was her second Thanksgiving with my family, and I could see her reassessing whether there would be a third. The term leftovers had followed me my whole life, though usually more subtly. I was the younger sister by 5 years. The one who came along when my parents thought they were done having children. Christine had been the center of their world before I arrived and disrupted everything. She'd never quite forgiven me for existing. As we grew up, the dynamic solidified. Christine was the golden child. Popular, outgoing, married her college boyfriend at 23 in a wedding that cost $40,000. Had Maya 2 years later. Bought a beautiful house in the suburbs. From the outside her life looked perfect. I took a different path. I came out as gay at 19, which my parents handled with polite discomfort rather than acceptance. I spent my 20s building my software consulting business instead of settling down. Met Sarah at 32. We lived in a modest condo, drove practical cars and didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. What my family didn't know, what Christine especially didn't know, was that I'd been paying her mortgage for the last 6 years. It started during her divorce. Christine's picture-perfect marriage imploded when she was 31. Her husband emptied their joint accounts and disappeared, leaving her with a toddler and a mortgage she couldn't afford on her receptionist's salary. She called me crying, desperate. The bank was threatening foreclosure. I'd helped. Of course I helped. She was my sister and Maya was my niece. I called the mortgage company and worked out an arrangement. I became a co-borrower, which meant the payments could come from my account. Christine said she'd pay me back, just until she got back on her feet. That was 6 years ago. The payments never stopped coming from my account. $4,200 every month. Plus property taxes of $12,000 annually. Plus homeowners insurance of $3,000 yearly. $58,400 per year. $350,400 total over 6 years. Christine never paid me back a single dollar. After the first year she stopped mentioning it entirely. I don't think she even looked at her mortgage statements anymore. They came to my address since I was the co-borrower handling the payments. As far as she knew, the mortgage just somehow got paid every month. She remarried 2 years ago to a man named Kevin who worked in pharmaceutical sales. They took vacations to Mexico and renovated the kitchen. Christine wore designer clothes and drove a new SUV. At family gatherings she talked about her successful life, her beautiful home, her perfect family. And she called me the leftovers. The call came 3 days after Thanksgiving, Sunday afternoon. I was working on a client project when my phone rang. Christine's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," she said, her tone casual. "I'm looking at the calendar and the mortgage payment is due on the 1st. Just wanted to make sure everything's set up for this month." I'd been waiting for this call. I'd canceled the automatic payment on Thursday night, right after Sarah and I got home from dinner. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice neutral, "leftovers don't pay bills." Silence. "What?" You heard me. Jennifer, what are you talking about? Is the payment set up or not? It's not. I canceled it Thursday night. You canceled it? Why would you do that? Her voice was rising. Because according to you, I'm just the leftovers of the family. And leftovers don't pay $58,000 a year to keep their sister in a house she can't actually afford. More silence. I could hear her breathing. Wait. You've been paying my mortgage. For 6 years. Every month. Plus property taxes and insurance. I thought the bank worked out some kind of program. After the divorce. The program was me. I co-signed and took over the payments. You said you'd pay me back once you got stable. That was 6 years ago. I didn't realize you were still paying. I thought maybe it was just the first year and then I took over or the bank worked something out or... Her voice trailed off. You never asked. You never looked at a statement. You just enjoyed living in a house you couldn't afford while telling your daughter I'm the leftovers of the family. That was a joke. Maya shouldn't have repeated it. Kids say everything. She repeated what you taught her. That I'm less than. That I'm unwanted. That I'm the scraps. My voice stayed level but I felt years of hurt behind every word. And the whole family laughed. So clearly they agree. Jennifer, come on. You can't just stop paying my mortgage. I have a child. I have a home. You have a home you can't afford. And Kevin has a good job. Between your income and his, you can cover the mortgage yourselves. It'll be tight but that's what budgets are for. But the payment is due in 3 days. Then you should make arrangements to pay it. I don't have $4,000 just sitting around. That's not my problem anymore. I've paid $350,000 over 6 years. I'm done. This is insane. You're going to ruin my life over a stupid comment. No, Christine. I'm going to stop funding your life after you made it clear what you think of me. There's a difference. She hung up on me. I set down the phone and went back to work. The calls started within an hour. First my mother, then my father, then Uncle Tom. Christine had told them her version. I was vindicatively destroying her life over a harmless joke. I was putting my niece's home at risk. I was being unreasonable and cruel. I told them all the same thing. 6 years. $58,000 per year. $350,000 total. Not a word of gratitude. Not a single repayment. And then teaching her daughter to call me leftovers while the family laughed. My mother sighed. I didn't know you were paying her mortgage. Christine didn't want anyone to know. It would ruin the image of her perfect life. But Maya. Think about Maya. I am thinking about Maya. She's learning that she can treat people terribly and still expect them to fund her lifestyle. That's not a lesson I want to reinforce. Your sister needs help. She needs to learn to live within her means. Kevin makes $90,000 a year. Christine makes $35,000. They can afford a $4,000 mortgage if they cut the vacations and the designer clothes and the new cars. They just don't want to. My father called next. His approach was more direct. You're really going to do this? Let your sister lose her house. I'm going to stop paying for a house that isn't mine while being treated like I'm worthless. She apologized for the comment. No, she didn't. She said it was a joke and I'm too sensitive. What do you want from her? Nothing. That's the point. I don't want anything. I'm just done giving. He didn't have a response to that. The mortgage payment came due on December 1st. Christine didn't make it. I knew because the mortgage company sent me notifications as a co-borrower. They called Christine directly, but she apparently didn't answer or couldn't come up with the money. By December 5th she called me again. They're charging late fees. My credit is going to be destroyed. Then make the payment. I can't. I don't have it. Kevin's paycheck goes to his child support and car payment. My paycheck covers groceries and utilities. We don't have an extra $4,000 lying around. Sell something. Cancel your vacation. Return the clothes. I don't know, Christine. Figure it out like every other adult who has to pay their bills. You're really going to let this happen. I'm really going to stop preventing it from happening. There's a difference. I could lose my house. You could make hard choices. Downsize. Get a roommate. Find a better paying job. Live somewhere affordable. I paused. You have options. You just don't like them. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just not doing everything for you anymore. She hung up again. By mid-December, Christine and Kevin had put the house on the market. They couldn't afford to keep it without my payments, and they couldn't qualify for a refinance without me as a co-borrower. The house sold quickly. It was a seller's market, and the place was in good condition thanks to all those renovations they'd done with money they should have been saving for their mortgage. They moved into a smaller house in a less prestigious neighborhood. Still nice, still safe, but not the showcase property Christine had been using to prove her success. They couldn't afford private lessons for Maya anymore or the annual beach vacation. Christine had to buy clothes at Target instead of Nordstrom. Christmas was awkward. My parents hosted and Christine barely spoke to me. Kevin seemed embarrassed but cordial. Maya asked me quietly if I was mad at her. No, sweetie. I'm not mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong. Mom said you stopped helping us because I said the leftovers thing. I knelt down to her level. Your mom said something that hurt my feelings and you repeated it because you didn't know better. That's not your fault. But grown-ups have to be responsible for their choices. Your mom made choices about money that meant she needed my help. Then she was unkind to me. So I stopped helping. That's about the grown-ups, not about you. Are you still my aunt? Always. No matter what. She hugged me and I felt some of the tightness in my chest ease. Whatever else happened, I didn't want Maya to carry guilt for her mother's words. In March, 4 months after the incident, Christine called me. Not about money. Not about the house. Just to talk. I'm in therapy, she said. Working through some stuff. That's good. The therapist asked me why I called you the leftovers. I said it was just a joke, but she pushed me on it. Made me really think about it. Christine's voice was quieter than I'd ever heard it. I think I've been jealous of you for a long time. Jealous? Of me? You're so self-sufficient. You built your own business. You found Sarah and you're happy. You don't care what anyone thinks. I've spent my whole life trying to prove I'm successful and worthy and perfect. And you just exist without needing that validation. I didn't know what to say. And then I found out you've been paying my mortgage for 6 years. That the house I was so proud of, that I used to show off my success, was actually evidence that I couldn't support myself. That my little sister, the leftover, was the one holding my life together. She laughed bitterly. The therapist said I was projecting my own fears onto you. That calling you the leftovers was really about how I felt about myself. Christine, I didn't help you to hold it over you. I know. Which makes it worse. You helped because that's who you are. And I repaid you by being cruel. He was crying now. I'm so sorry. For the comment, for Maya repeating it, for taking your money and never acknowledging it, for everything. You deserved so much better from me. Thank you for saying that. I don't expect you to start helping again. We're managing. It's tight, but we're managing. Kevin picked up extra shifts. I'm looking for a better paying position. We're actually living within our budget for the first time in years. How does that feel? Stressful. But also kind of freeing. Like I don't have to pretend anymore. We talked for another 20 minutes. It wasn't reconciliation, not yet. But it was honest. Maybe the most honest conversation we'd ever had. Sarah found me after the call and saw the tears on my face. You okay? Yeah. Christine apologized. Actually apologized. Think she means it? I think she's starting to understand some things. Whether she changes, that's up to her. Sarah pulled me close. You did the right thing. Setting that boundary. It didn't feel right at the time. It just felt necessary. Sometimes those are the same thing. I thought about that. About boundaries and family and the difference between helping and enabling. About being called the leftovers while being the person who kept everything together. Maybe being the leftovers wasn't the insult Christine thought it was. Leftovers were what sustained you after the feast was over. They were the practical, necessary parts that kept you fed when the celebration ended. They were what you returned to when the show was finished. I'd spent my life being the leftover, the one who showed up, did the work, asked for nothing and kept going. Maybe it was time to reclaim that word. To own it as something other than an insult. Because at the end of the day, when everyone else's performance was over, the leftovers were what remained. Solid. Sustaining. And that was enough.